All right, good morning, YouTube. Welcome to Monday. We're going to have a little bit longer section than usual, as some of us get to slack off and get the day off, even, which means we do more work than we normally do. You know what I'm saying? So, all of you that still putting in the grind in the day, have a good one. The weather is all over the country again this week. You can see the rain and everything hitting the East Coast again. Like, if you guys went 3 days without weather, I don't think you guys have went 3 days without rain or snow from, I would say, at least Kansas City eastward. It seems like it's been a long winter for you guys. We're getting shafted. We finally got some snow yesterday out here. Looks like they're showing some showers out there on the California coast, but it's pretty moved out and moved over there to Utah, as you'll see. So we got Barry Wood and Walter Davis joining us already this morning. Welcome, gentlemen. It looks like you're crystal clear, Barry, but the mountains might be hiding something that this weather map's not showing. You never know. It's all good, Walter. Lots of people fell asleep last night. It was a good chat last night. I hadn't had one of those in a long time. So let's get into it. We got some people in. Cut through the intros. So yeah, a lot of weather kicking in out there. Storm out here for the west. Of course, they have to name it, apparently. What are they calling this thing? Oliver. The one out here that's going through the west. They have to name it. But it's hitting Salt Lake and everything right now. This is some of the video from this morning, I guess. Talking about 4 feet going into the Rockies, so that'll be a good time. Y'all on the East Coast going to miss out on that. Crom, you're probably getting slammed with some snow, I would imagine, out of this storm. They're getting. Did you get your 4 feet already? Is it looks like it's dipped maybe south of you already, so you might have already got your snow. Snow, 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 snow. Feels good to actually talk about some weather out here for a change instead of everything back east. But it's supposed to get real cold tonight and tomorrow after this pushes through. They're talking single digits for the next day or so. There's your winter weather alerts going out. Monday, more rain and snow. You love plowing the snow, Walter? Yeah, when you can have a truck do it, it's a little bit different. I have a cousin that does some of that back home. But doing it by hand, hand shoveling's a little bit at work. It's a workout right there. You're below zero right now, Crom, and snow and more snow. They're calling for -15 tonight. This is the second snowiest year out there where you're at, northern Montana, kind of. Wow. So we had that last year out here. We had the one of the record years for snowfall out here in the Sierra and even in the valleys down here in Nevada last year. It was wet. Lots of snow and rain. More Tuesday coming your way. Walter M. Long, if he joins us, he'll be getting some more rain after. I think he had yesterday a day off, but unless that's through Tuesday. So good times. Some of the snowfall reports: 21 inches at Lookout Ski Resort in Idaho, 17 inches near Stanley. Let's keep the significant stuff. 15 inches in Minnesota near Turtle River. Montana up there, Crom, they're saying 24 inches in Cook City, 20 in Kalispell. They had 10 inches of snow out near Wells. Dadgum. That's out in Elko County, though. That's other side of the state. I don't know where 16. I don't know where Hole in the Wall Mountain is in Nevada. I have to look that up. So they got 16 inches. 10 inches on Mount Hood in Oregon. 14 and a half in Garden City, Utah. 16 inches in Plain, Washington up there, Barry. You know where that is? Probably. 10 inches up there in Leavenworth, Washington. 14 inches in Beartooth Lake in Wyoming. 12 inches in Jackson Hole. So it's a good week. It's been going fairly well. Winter has not forsaken us. M. Long, what's up? Good morning. We were just looking at the radar or the forecast. You'll be getting some wetness coming your way later in the week, so at least enjoy it while you can. I think maybe even tonight. Going by that original map. Jump back over here. Looks like this might be rolling over you and Walter later. Good morning, Boneyard Militia. Says it's cold as a mofo in my hood. That climate, global warming is really kicking in, isn't it? It's definitely having its effects. Something is. Maybe it's just because the weather changes. Just call me crazy. But thanks for joining us, everybody. That was the weather update for this morning, this week. Throw any stories you got a hot tip on. I'm running kind of short on notes, but I do have a couple things I've seen that put out there. They had a follow-up earthquake yesterday. This was yesterday evening, 5.9. Actually, it was early Monday for them. Thank you for, like I was saying last week, the paper actually, explains what time it was, where it was. Sometimes you can't tell by reading the article if it's local time or U.S. time they're talking about. So if there's, in particular, already buildings weakened by those 7.0s they were getting, could cause further damage. But that place down there, they're definitely getting shook up for the last couple months. I still haven't seen any casualty reports out of that one from last week, so maybe that's a good thing. Maybe people got out of that one unscathed for the most part. Walter Davis, you're going to start burning tires to get global warming going? uh, I don't think the stock market's open this morning. Or is it? Did they do holiday hours on Bitcoin is recovering, so that means it's once again trending with the market appears. Well, if I can click through that, open sesame. Didn't see any large market news. I think this might be futures. This isn't. Yeah, I don't think it's open today. So all the manipulation behind the scenes can take place for another day, it looks like. Where our gas price is going to be sent. So we did get oil back down to a reasonable price last week. The 10-year is still hovering up close to 10.9. Follow that for the rest of the year. So we talked about that Chinese infrastructure project last week with trying to connect Europe, Africa, Asia with this big economic growth plan. But there's a 4-nation alliance that may be rising to counter Chinese Belt and Road. It says the U.S., Japan, India, and Australia could join forces to establish an alternative. That could be a boondoggle. So I guess President Trump's going to Australia this week, where they might talk about this. Yeah, we talked last week and kind of overlaid it, how that Chinese plan was laying out. What's interesting is obviously this US, Australia, India plan would be sea-based because all the stuff China's doing is linking itself to the Europe and whatnot. I don't know how these countries should get together and lay roadworks in the similar fashion. It would have to be something else. They don't, of course, don't talk about details because they don't have a plan, even though China's already got a plan apparently. The U.S. has been in talks with Japan, India, and Australia to deepen security cooperation and coordinate alternatives to China's Belt and Road project. Good luck with it. it would be very expensive. I would imagine it'd probably cost us 3 times as much to do it what China can do it at, right? Seems like the way it always works out. Chinese got lots of people, don't have to pay them very much. But Japan is definitely left out of that infrastructure project. It does include India, though, the Chinese maritime plan in particular. Come back in the side chat here in the chat room. Backing up a little bit, said Walter Davis says in the East gas is expensive because of the taxes they put on it. It's $2.79 for regular, right? Yeah, we get screwed out here in Nevada, Walter, for gas prices because a lot of the gas we get is refined in California. So it's got all the refinery adjustments they have to do for the California Green Eco Warriors gas that they get. So it's refined differently, and we get stuck with a lot of that gas in Nevada. That's why our prices are. You can drive over to Utah and stuff, and you can save 15 cents or so. But we're shoot, yeah. Right now, I think we're at 250, 255, depending on where you get it. I remember when I drove across the country back in November, Kansas seemed, I think, had the cheapest gas of anywhere. Anywhere I went through was Kansas or maybe Missouri, right in that belt along. That was along just driving I-70 and I-40 back to North Carolina. That was the cheapest gas I found. Walter Davis says, you don't think the Chinese can afford to build the road by themselves? Well, no, obviously. It's going to take cooperation like they talk about. If you go to that story, I can put it in the side chat here so if I can get a link. They talk about the cooperation is going to take with the countries they go into. Obviously, going to require probably their their resources and their infrastructure. You can click on it. Okay, I'll just put this one in there. But we can't afford it either. I don't think we could pull it off either. Short of just putting us all in debt once again. There we go. Put that link in the side chat for you if you want to click over and check out that map, and that you can go through that route again at your leisure. I'll try to drop it in the description box later after we go live. Everything government does is a boondoggle. Exactly, Crom. The government cannot build infrastructure efficiently. Its priorities are different. Well, they even talk about it at the bottom of this article. They're talking about deepening security cooperation and alternatives to China's Belt and Road Project. Those two are two different issues. Security cooperation and Belt and Road Project. They're going to boondoggle them together. Yeah, the EU zone is very protective of their trade, but they're also getting crushed economically. The Europeans better do something. They might be out of business here very quickly with what's going on. And you got Brexit, Spain, not Barcelona, the dadgummit. I was following that for a while. Need to look that back up. The Spain secessionist movement there in Catalonia, the biggest economic zone in Spain, trying to break away. You got Greece. You got all the stuff. EU just falling apart. Crom says, doesn't Trump want more gas tax? That's what I heard him say, Crom. He said he wanted that infrastructure built, use a gas tax. Page not found? Dadgummit. Of course. Maybe it didn't come across right. Sometimes in translation. Seems like that does happen. It doesn't all go through either, does it? Looks like they shortened it up. Yeah, it doesn't come up. Uh, well, it's on the front page there, CNBC, on the right side still. Look for that Four Nation Alliance article if you go to the main page of CNBC. Yeah, it doesn't. How do I. Can I shorten that myself? Yeah, I don't know how to make a short URL on that, at least ad hoc. And here's the other older article here. It might just be too long of a link to put into the side chat. Maybe that's what it is. It's just too long, probably. I'll bet. Well, that one went through. Well, no, they shortened it up. And that one probably won't work either. Yep, that doesn't work either. Thanks for the heads up, Crom. I'll have to. So just go to CNBC.com. It's still up on the main front page, both of those stories. So speaking about that gas tax, but at least you got your payroll tax lessened this year, so you can afford to pay that gas tax, right? I think they did. There was an article last week about that. Like they were asking for like a quarter gas tax or something crazy, and it would wipe out the tax reductions from the payroll tax that they took out, and it actually increases everybody's taxes by like 3 or 4% above and beyond what they're paying. So like what you paid last year would be 3% more paying that gas tax. So that'll be fun if we do get those taxes. Oh, are the commies getting a little creative here? Venezuela about to sell a petro cryptocurrency. Interesting. So Venezuela, which is falling apart economically as we've watched the last couple weeks, talked about, is launching the sale of a commodity-backed petro cryptocurrency, but their petro exports are at the lowest of like ever, at least since they joined OPEC. We saw that last week. So what are they going to back it with? This petro that they're not getting out of the ground? They hope it will make financial transactions and get around Western sanctions. Because, the petrodollar dominates the market right now. Venezuela's petro token will be backed by its oil, gas, gold, and diamond reserves. So commodity-based, not just oil. According to the government, the government's cryptocurrency. Shoot, I might buy some of this. Yeah, who's going to take it is the question. This would be illegal in every Western country. What you consider Western, the EU and the United States, I'm sure would probably come and pick you up if you try to use some of this stuff. But maybe Amazon will take it. You never know. Currency regulators said Friday that it would draw investment from Qatar, Turkey, and other Middle Eastern countries, as well as from European nations and the U.S. Some people might fall into that trap. The petro will not be available in the Venezuelan bolivar initially. So not their worthless currency that they're currently using, of course. Yeah, Venezuelans' own hard currency collapsed as the South American state grappled with crippling hyperinflation caused by horrible policies of socialism. They have missed the key points. Yeah, right, Walter. They're everything's falling apart. How are they going to back what? How's that crypto going to be backed when they can't get the minerals out of the ground because everything's falling apart? They got lots of stuff under the ground there, but they refuse to modernize and proliferate their industries in a manner to benefit from it. Almost as bad as the United States. Many doubt its digital currency venture will bring much benefit to the economy or its people who are suffering shortages in food, medicine due to price control. Let's focus on the real problem. You're not gonna. You might be able to sell a little bit of stuff and get around some sanctions, but how you get people medicine and food? As we covered last week, food shipments into the big cities are getting ambushed, basically. Yeah, Boneyard, I'm with you. I think all cryptos, I don't say they're going to fail, but they're going to be taken over by governments and central, I should say central banks. Central banks are going to manipulate everybody getting into this system and take it over. And modern thought is, or not modern thought, maybe the common thought is that that's the mark of the beast. That's what brings upon economic singularity. You cannot trade without it. Warning, be on the lookout. Yeah, Venezuelan crude production fell 29% in 2017. So a continuing decrease in output will increase the likelihood of its defaulting on its debts. Toro said that Venezuela's economic woes have given it a bad credit reputation and that the government was trying to convince itself of the validity of Chavismo, the left-wing political ideology established under former President Hugo Chavez, also known as another form of communism that always fails. I like how they put it. They will never say socialism or communism on any of these mainstream sites. It's just left wing, it's just to the left. So should we be able to safely assume that if Chavez had a left-wing political ideology, that matches up with basically every Democrat running for office because they're left-wing, right? Sounds accurate. Sounds accurate to me. And as we talked about last week, that affects the rest of this South America and their economic issues. Kind of ties in with Brazil and other countries, so be on the lookout for that. This is a long article just to talk about cryptocurrency getting backed by commodities. Holy cow. Russian guy here quoted, there is a science establishment in Russia, Toro. If Russia is going to launch a crypto, they're not going to copy some banana republic. It's ridiculous. It's totally silly to do. I do think it's mostly noise. Right. Sweden is looking at the possibility of a digital version of the Swedish krona. Cash used in the Scandinavian country has deeply declined in recent years, which is what they want. Because if you don't have it in your hand, you don't own it. If you think it lives on the cloud Ethernet server somewhere, it's not yours. Just a warning. So that's interesting. Trying to find a way to get around sanctions with electronic currencies. All right. Back out in the side chat. M. Harrison, good morning. Welcome to the chat. Well, the problem with Venezuela, M. Harrison, as it briefly describes in that article, is that they're under sanctions from the U.S. and the EU on that. So they have a hard time taking dollars for oil. Most of their customers aren't in the dollar market. as well. Indeed, they are, Crom. Sanctions are war. That's just another form of warfare. It used to be fighting words, and now people just take it. Cryptocurrencies could drop to near zero at any time, Ethereum founder warns. Well, duh. There you go back to the value of original that they originally had, which is zero. Well, I guess there'd be a 1 digit and a 0 digit left, so they'd be worth about that much. Digits on a computer, same as your calculator on your computer or on your cell phone. All right, let's get off the economic side. We'll jump over. We talked briefly about the earthquakes in Mexico continuing. And we hit briefly on the chat last night about the agenda coming out from last week's Florida incident. And the president had made some comments about the processes. And CNN's trying to angle here, it looks like, to pit him into a corner on improving background checks, which I don't know how the feds can do that, but you know how that goes. But anyway, the quote here, and this is from today, correct? This was on the top line. This is my first thing this morning. Said the president is supportive of efforts to improve the federal background check system, which is basically an instant system. If you've ever had to go through the instant check system, like that didn't stop anything any other time. So exactly what strengthen means or improving is the question. We briefly hypothesized last night that if the president really goes in on this, some sort of gun restriction scheme, he thought giving amnesty to 2 million people was bad. Try to do this, see how much support he gets. Or people just going to go back to sleep. They kind of rehash some of the past events with Las Vegas here. The executive order he removed concerning Social Security Administration disclosing information to the background check system concerning mental illness, which was basically restrictions without judicial due process. So but the left will say that he let crazy people get guns. No, he let people have their day in court over the issue. So they bring up a quote from 2016, before he was a political figure, that he backed a ban on assault weapons and a longer waiting period. And quoted here saying, I generally oppose gun control, but I support the ban on assault weapons, and I support a slightly longer waiting period to purchase a gun. That was in a 2000 book. So quite a bit's changed. I guess you could change your mind. I've changed my mind on things since 2000, to be fair. And we really don't care what the NRA says. So that's interesting. CNN's trying to get an angle wedge in there, it looks like, more so than anything. Back in the side chat, the Anna Nicole channel. Good morning. Welcome to the chat. How you doing? Still talking about Venezuela out there. Lack of economic stability and everything else. Walter Davis says the problem with the background system is doctors won't report because of HIPAA laws. But if they're mandated, if it's in law to report, Walter, that would give them a pass out of HIPAA. They report data for other things that are exclusionary in HIPAA, and they could make this part of the same thing. We were talking about mental health in particular. They would give them an exclusion in law. So, I mean, whatever's written, they would just say this does not apply to HIPAA as far as a release of information. Walter and Crom says, I think Trump could cave at some point to what about the children? We need to ban guns. New York Republican, right? Think of the children, right? That's a common request. I am thinking of my children in particular. All right. Anybody got any stories out there in their area they want to throw out there in this chat? We can pull it up, look it around. I kind of went through my brief list. We've hit our 30 minutes. We're going to go about another 25 or so, depending on how many y'all stick around. I know some of you guys got to get in the work groove if you're not commuting already. I didn't even bounce over to Zero Hedge yet. Zero Hedge looked kind of interesting. Alliances. Kurdish fighters strike deal with Syrian army to drive Turks out. That seems like that would be mutually beneficial. Trump's trying to goad Oprah into running for president. That'd really throw the DNC into a mess, you'd think. Yeah, the U.S. market's on holiday. Should look at Zero Hedge first. Asian markets are closed for the Lunar New Year, so not a lot of action at all going on. No wonder it looks so blank over there. The Polish are looking at anti-crypto YouTube propaganda videos. What? Polish central bank secretly funds anti-crypto YouTube propaganda videos, and they weren't paying me. What's up with that? They've admitted to anti-cryptocurrency campaigns on social media. Specifically, Polish YouTuber, I ain't gonna try to say his name. In December 2017 video, I lost all the money. So it was all hype and lies and just propaganda, apparently. That's funny. So apparently it's a story of a young man who invests all his money in crypto only to lose it all, has amassed over 500,000 views. That's not very many views in the big picture when you talk about millions. I guess just Poles probably watch it. So everybody in Poland is not getting in. That's the agenda, at least. Interesting. Central banks getting in on that action. We know they don't want to promote it. That's for sure. They want their own version so they can control people. Good morning, Kevin Stoll. What's up? Thanks for checking in. The world's wealthiest cities. I guess it depends on how you determine wealth. Most of it they confiscated from their citizens. Does that constitute wealth or just a good thief? Boneyard Militia out there states Vancouver 767 loaded with 100,000 cannabis clones for canopy grows, 1.3 million square feet of greenhouses. Biggest cannabis grow in the world. That's happening in Vancouver, Boneyard, a project trying to figure out they flew those in or they I'm not sure the greenhouse is loaded in Vancouver and the 767 flew in to Vancouver. I do follow D Rooter out there in Vancouver who does a lot of the cannabis activism that they've been having issues in Vancouver. Yeah, Crime America's top president reality sideshow, Oprah and Trump, right? Be made for TV perfectly, right? I can imagine that sideshow. Hey, good morning. You can do it. Thanks for coming in the chat. Welcome. Good morning, wherever it is where you are. Um, short Bitcoin. I never trusted it to begin with, but like I say, don't you put anything in Bitcoin or in the Wall Street or anything else that you're not willing to take to a casino and put on black. I would say I would treat it the same way. I see Boneyard. So the plane came from Ottawa, Ontario, and flew into Vancouver with all the 100,000. Interesting. That's a good startup project if you can afford it. All right, you can do it. You're out there with Walter. You, you two are going to get some rain and snow later this week as we started off with the weather here. Well, here's a good question. How is the world ruled? How honest are they going to be about this? This was from this morning, bright and early. It looks like 02. World Bank's former lead economist asks, how is the world ruled? This would be a very good article to recommend here for your intellectual curiosity. So it's probably going to go down the rabbit hole quite a bit. This might be a long one, so I'm not going to go through it all. I think we all have our supposition answers to this. That maybe proposition one is the answer. Uh, get off that. But it would be worth reading nonetheless. See if I can drop it in the side chat if that'll come up. Let me try it like that. All right, there you go. Just add a W to the front of that. That'll link you over. But there's a couple of propositions. See what the top propositions are, just to give a highlight of it. It's ruled. The world is ruled by cabal. The world is ruled on merit, which I would say is not ruled on. A lot of us operate on that preposition. Is there anything else? That's the only two prepositions. Well, wow, that was easy. We could all done that here. We do that in here on this chat about every day. It's shorter than I thought. So there's just a short article on what sit around and conspire about daily, just about. Because really, if you don't know who's pulling the strings, you don't know what to do yourself. If you're operating in one realm and it's not being operated that well, you're failing to adapt. A little bit of personal experience mentioned in here from this guy from the World Bank. That's interesting. And a couple links to click through to some story links. So that'd be interesting. That'd be worth reading in your time and looking at some of these stories linked through to see how he bases his decisions. If I can get out of here. Okay. Why is a Bloomberg article popping up in the corner? Get out of here. Yeah. This is an interesting article. 73% of Americans are likely to adhere to the law. I wonder if that ties in with our ideas of people will turn their guns in. That's a good 25% that won't, though. People who are most and least likely to adhere to the law. Interesting. The Scandinavian people seem to be pretty content. Europeans. Interesting. And then the bottom of the study, Venezuela. Places where there essentially is no rule of law because it's chaos. Venezuela, Cambodia, Afghanistan, right? Interesting article. Since 2016, 34% of countries saw their rule of law decline. 20% improved and 37% stayed the same. Where was this article done at? The World Justice Project measured rule of law adherence. Interesting concept. Who thought you could measure that? So they measure how much you adhere to the law now. Think we know how speed limits get treated. Back in the side chat, Boneyard can't spell. Okay. Talking about cocaine coming in. Talking about the drug war. How'd you guys get on the subject of the drug war? Talk about side chat. Let's talk about a side chat. I can't even keep up. But I guess that goes into the adhering to the rule of law story. The market will always find a way, even if there is a law against it. Get out of there. So we still have a few snowy roads around here. Oh my goodness, the political ads pop up. No, Steve, not you. Hmm. Students are going to walk out on March 24th, apparently. That'll be fun. A bunch of 17-year-olds deciding what we should do. That'll work. Nobody's watched the Olympics, apparently. I did watch the biathlon yesterday. That was a good race. But apparently the TV ratings for the Olympics are pretty low. The U.S. doesn't excel in the Winter Olympics, so they kind of, I think, would expect that. Interesting story. Focus on the Dreamers breeds resentment from other immigrants here illegally. So you're here illegally, but you're kind of resentful. Those other illegals are getting preferential treatment. It was bound to happen. See, this guy's here is illegal. The poster child in the picture here is illegal. Oh, no, wait. Who's in the country without legal status? So let's put my picture on the front page of the paper. No, there's no fear of anything there. He crossed into the U.S. illegally from Mexico nearly 30 years ago. That's a different guy. I love how people think they just come here and wait for a path to legal when they can go back to their home country and do it the right way, but they want to do it their way. But anyway, since he's not a dreamer, he doesn't qualify because he was here before the last amnesty, I guess. He doesn't qualify. This is the pot calling the kettle black. He says, I'm very bitter. These DACA kids definitely have this sense of entitlement. And he doesn't. Oh, gosh. What's going on in the side chat, people? We're about ready to wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up at 7:30. Put some. You got anything else? Hot tips out there? 17-year-olds want Elmo for president. Elmo might be better at it. I'd tell you that much, Walter. Elmo's a puppet, so if the shoe fits, right, Crom? Uh, right. Um, so yeah, this guy that's here is illegal is bitter at the entitlement of DACA kids that have this sense of entitlement. That's hilarious. Sense of entitlement. Quite a way to say it. Can't make this stuff up, folks. Goldman Sachs warns of U.S. spending in uncharted territory, danger to growth. Well, 23 trillion in debt will do that, I guess. On down the line, not a whole lot on the, and nobody's got any recommendations in the side chat, so I'm out here all alone and unafraid. There was an article last week that I didn't get a chance to hit on because it got caught up in the wash of after the Valentine's Day Florida event. But an elk had taken down a Department of Wildlife helicopter in Utah. It probably is not there anymore. That was the funniest thing I had ever seen. Like, how does that happen? How does the elk take down a helicopter? You might have been flying a little bit too low. It's not in this. I found it in the Elko paper, but I just found that is hilarious. A little thin on the news there too. Let me see if I can pull it up a little more detail. And I think the story, the helicopter was an Australian company that was contracted to do herd studies or something like that. And obviously they got too low. It's like, why are Australians studying American elk? Like, can't we do that ourselves? Okay, it's even in USA Today here. I got it now. So we'll finish off with this light-hearted story, a little less serious, but and amusing nonetheless. Leaping elk crashes low-flying research helicopter. It says it leaped into a research helicopter. It doesn't even say it leapt up to. Like maybe it was on the ground, I guess. They were trying to take off. It was trying to the helicopter was trying to capture the elk and brought the helicopter down in a collision that also killed the elk. Oh, that's unfortunate. I was hoping the elk walked away from it. The elk jumped into the chopper's tail rotor. I see. It's about 10 feet off above the ground in eastern Utah. The crew is trying to drop a net on the elk. This story says it's a Texas-based crew, but I could have swore it was Australian in the other one I read. Maybe the crew, the flight crew was Texan and the researchers in the back were Australian, maybe. So apparently they're trying to trap and tag the elk, studying migration paths, etc. Says the state captures about 1,300 animals each winter, almost all using helicopters. And not surprisingly, Tuesday's downing of the helicopter was the first accident of its kind. I would imagine this is not a regular occurrence. That's a sad way for the elk to go. So, all right, there in the side chat. Thanks for coming out, folks. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. If you're at work or otherwise, likewise. Finishing up, we got Jay Stoll still out there. You can do it. Right? That's what I was thinking. You can do it. They take it down and just walk off, right? They do it with vehicle crashes, big moose and elk. They'll wreck your car and walk away from it. No problem. Yeah, donating the meat. I don't know about that. That's hard to say. And they don't get into that here. So thanks for coming out, folks. We'll wrap it up. We'll see you in the morning if you come back out in the morning or join us any any weekday morning, essentially. We'll do a quick. We only do 30 minutes normally, but it's a holiday, so it's a special day. So y'all be good out there. The freak.